Free.
Tonight, it's yet another interesting topic where we are discussing African leaders trying to export some peace efforts to the rest of the world. We are assessing the impact of African leaders' peace mediation in Ukraine and Russia. After traveling to Ukraine on Friday, that is last Friday, a delegation of African leaders arrived in Russia on Saturday on a self-styled peace mission. 7 African leaders, including the presidents of the Comoros, Senegal, South Africa, and Zambia, as well as Egypt's prime minister and top envoys from the Republic of Congo, DRC here, and Uganda, traveled to St. Petersburg to meet with Russia's President Vladimir Putin, who attended a business forum in Russia's second largest city. The mission to Ukraine and Russia, the first of its kind by African leaders, comes in the wake of other peace initiatives such as one by China, and it carried a particular importance for Africa that relies on food and fertilizer deliveries from Russia and Ukraine, whose war has blocked exports from one of the world's most important bread baskets. Ladies and gentlemen, many African nations have actually long had close ties with Moscow, dating back to the Cold War, when the Soviet Union supported the anti-colonial struggles in Africa. And important to note is the fact that this is a supremacy war between Russia and America. America is using NATO as a cover-up and is using Ukraine as the battleground. So the question is, can African leaders actually twist or even take care of America's interests? Remember, the former president of America was very clear, unlike Biden. He was always very emphatic. He was always emphasizing that it is America's interests first. So we are asking, can the African leaders take care of the interests of America in Ukrainian and Russian war? Because it's only then that America can realize that now we need peace to prevail. If America's interests are not taken care of, I don't think that war can actually end. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad that I already have distinguished guests here ready to partake of tonight's debate. And I will begin with Comrade James Kashaya, who is a researcher and a very renowned Pan-Africanist, and he's always been here as one of the pioneer members of the Pan-African Pyramid. I want you to give him a round of applause. And right next to him is Comrade Rugarama, who is the chairman of Pan-African Movement, Uganda chapter, and also a civil rights lawyer. If you could also give him a round of applause. When I introduce somebody, I want the camera to focus on the person I've introduced, Comrade. When I introduce the person, let the camera focus on the person so that they know who I'm talking about. The third one is Comrade Eric Sakwa. Eric Sakwa is the former RDC of Jinja City, and I don't want to mention here his current deployment for obvious reasons. It keeps between us for now. And finally, I will have Comrade Professor George William Malenyo, who is an international civil rights lawyer. Comrade George William Malenyo, also give him a round of applause. And on the way is Comrade Honorable Fred Mukasambide, a former Yala MP, Vice President of DP, and a very great Pan-Africanist at that. So, ladies and gentlemen, begin with Comrade Rugarama to give us a background of this topic. Comrade Rugarama, do you really believe from the bottom of your heart, the African heart that is not pretentious, you are not pretending, but you know it is true, do you really believe that African leaders can export peace in the war between Russia and America? I want to say it is between Russia and America, not Ukraine. That war is a proxy war for America. So do you think that African leaders can actually mediate or midwife peace there? I will begin with you, and the next 15 minutes are yours, Comrade Rugarama.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the comrades, I greet you. Good evening. I want to commence by saying that characteristic of what has become of our neo-scholars, especially on the African continent, to bash every effort that emanates from the African continent, and they take pride in it. I'm an exception. However little the contribution that may be from the African continent by the African leaders and all the people across the board, I will always find a reason to applaud it. And where we have got limitations, I also not be shy to mention. I am aware that the panel of 7 leaders, those who physically went in their capacity as the president, and others who sent envoys, but nevertheless the mentioned countries were represented,
including
in
Uganda,
mediating peace between Russia and Ukraine, have set a precedent in the sense that for the very first time, and like how it used to be, that the rest of the world would pretend to mediate and bring peace after creating havoc on the African continent in our own limited ways. We are the ones now who appear to be mediating and taking peace to the rest of the world. On that account, I applaud the efforts of the African leaders. I'm not naive, though, not to appreciate the fact that Africa as a continent and African Union, if you like, is still limited in her capacity due to the position she has held up today, which is characterized by a number of weaknesses, economic, social, and political, compared to other continents, that our attempts to mediate at such a fora, a peace agreement of the magnitude as the conflict between Ukraine and Russia, will always be looked up and upon as an attempt in futility. I want to suggest that Russia, having had quite a very historical working relationship with Africa, there is a measure of respect. Whether that respect is not on equal levels, as indeed it must not be, at least there is a regard to African efforts, because even when we were fighting for the liberation of the African continent, the Russia Federation was advancing enormous support in terms of military hardware. And upon victory that Africa attained, the cooperation continued. I want, therefore, in that respect, to believe that when the African leaders were invited, or for that matter, they applied to mediate, and they were allowed, because there is when you apply or you ask and your request is rejected flat. I do not think that some people were playing to the cameras. If Russia, probably because of that historical tie, was so kind, then Ukraine could have rejected. But the proposal was accepted by the two warring forces. I'm also not naive to know, that Ukraine is not alone in this, or probably it is actually not Ukraine. The people who are fighting on Ukrainian territory, like my senior P.O. Lumumba said, that some people seem to still think that they are still in the theater, acting, when in actual sense, we are talking about loss of lives. But this time around, the 7 heads of state went with a 10-point agenda upon which they are negotiating peace. It is therefore my submission that, for instance, if we are talking about de-escalating the conflict, which Russia and Ukraine may not agree to, we talk about exchange of prisoners, which at this material time, that was part of the package, may not be agreed to. we talk about the unblocking or easing the traffic of grain or cereals, and both Ukraine and Russia seem to have given a nod. If that can happen, then that is going to be a plus as far as the efforts of the African leaders are concerned. If, for instance, the travel on the Black Sea, the vessels which are already on the Black Sea, and the leaders concerned do adhere that to the cry of the African leaders that let's have the vessels allowed to transport the fuel products, which in effect, due to the blockade and the associated evils, have increased the transport costs on the African continent, and hence leading to the commodities, various commodities, prices skyrocketing. Then that is also going to be a plus, because even before the leaders left, there was a signal that that can be achieved. I also want to state that, and I have heard this being said across the board from some sections of the population, that we being the underdogs, I mean Africa, there is no way we can dictate terms to the big powers. I do reckon the fact that Africa in this context is actually the underdog. But when a team, I gave this example on UBC this morning, when a team which is considered an underdog is elevated to play in the Super League, it means that it has finished some processes from down. By the time you are invited to play in the Super League, you are at a level, probably, and if you keep it that way, whereby you may not be relegated. The fact that Africa now has reached, with all her problems, because the other argument has been that Africa has failed to demonstrate maintaining peace in her own backyard. Granted, there may be some chaos in West Africa, Central Africa, some skirmishes in East Africa. When you look at the entire Africa, generally speaking, like the imaginary letter that was written by Dr. Dlamini Zuma to the late Osejefoa, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, indeed, if the likes of the Kwame Nkrumahs came this time around, they resurrected from their tombs and they looked at what is happening in Africa, they would probably ask themselves as to whether their efforts from 1963 were worthy. But I must also comfort you that African Union for that matter, the formerly Organization of African Union, has come a long way. And it has registered some success, and we are not ignorant of the fact that it has met and is still meeting big challenges. But I want to submit, by way of concluding on this issue, that African leaders who took part in the peace negotiations between Ukraine and Russia have done a commendable job. It does not matter what is in their background, whether there is peace, democracy in Senegal, as you want to say it, whether the president of South Africa was trying to pray to the gallery, having been accused of shipping arms to Russia, whether he did it as a consequence of him being part of the BRICS, and therefore he wanted to show Russia that he also holds some clout and he can call upon his brothers and sisters to help him in making a statement. My take is that there are efforts being made. Whether those efforts are going to yield 0.05%, 1%, 10%, I am grateful.
So the issue is simply about appearing.
No, far from it.
That you came.
I know the limitations, I repeat.
But my question right from the beginning was, Comrade Rugarama, from the bottom of your African heart, do you believe African leaders can actually export and midwave peace between Ukraine and Russia? That was the question. Your answer should first of all be yes or no. And then we can now justify why it's a yes or a no.
Let me first say yes. And then I state that my yes is hinged on the fact that for peace processes, you may not have to score 100%, 70%, 40%. Any contribution, however minimal the contribution may be, is welcome. And if the African leaders who have participated in this peace negotiation are going to score 20%, it is still a very welcome approach.
So you believe there is something they can deliver?
I honestly and absolutely believe there is something that is going to come.
Few days ago, rebels came from Congo allegedly. I am not so sure. They attacked Ugandan children, killed them, slaughtered them, and the leadership of Uganda is in Ukraine pacifying peace, when actually your very own is on fire. Congo and Rwanda are not seeing eye to eye, but Congo sent a delegation to go and pacify peace in Ukraine. Are you saying it is true you can give what you don't have?
I want to tell you, most frankly, that if that was the criteria for dispensing peace to other countries and mediating peace processes, some of the countries which have projected themselves as the givers and the keepers of peace would be out of the equation.
Professor Allen, what is your take? You think there is something we can deliver in Ukraine?
Right, Honorable Speaker. Today's topic is interesting. It is Africa's peace efforts in Ukraine. Right, Honorable Speaker, on the 16th June this month, our African leaders registered a bold step in trying to bring peace between the two European countries, Ukraine and Russia. An ad hoc group of African leaders led by South African leader Cyril Ramaphosa visited Kiev and Moscow. Uganda was represented by Right Honorable Rugarama Rugunda, and other African leaders were Azil Assoumani, President of the African Union, the President of Comoros, President of the Republic of Congo, Sassou Nguesso, Colonel Sassou Nguesso, Macky Sall of Senegal, Kekende of Zambia, and Egypt's Prime Minister. Honorable Speaker, the peace mission was announced by the Brazzaville Foundation.
Brazzaville?
Yes, Brazzaville Foundation.
So why is that a problem? Brazzaville Foundation.
I'm coming. It is a problem. The peace mission was organized and announced by the Brazzaville Foundation on the 16th May through the South African president. Right Honorable Speaker, the Brazzaville Foundation was created in the summer of 2014 by a Jewish, Algerian, French businessman.
Jewish,
Algerian, French businessman.
Now I know where you're going.
And he's called,
I know where you're
he's called Jean-Viance Nauri Olivier. And he's the current president. And the headquarters of this Brazzaville Foundation is in London.
Oh.
And I think that is where the African leaders started to have a problem. After all this talk of imperialism, and after all the knowledge we have, how the Imperial British East African Company in Uganda, Lonro, and the South African Boers companies, it was a shame that an initiative for African leaders to go to discuss peace in Ukraine was being fronted by an imperialist foundation.
Oh, so it means right from the beginning, the concept was wrong, because it was formulated and initiated by the very colonialists.
The very colonialists, they have always
and the very antagonists, because UK is in good books with America on the Russian war.
I have my 2 minutes you have taken.
So,
Mr. President, Right Honorable Speaker, you can therefore see that the peace mission is already a problem. But I agree with the
But
comrade
Mussolini never moved from there.
Rugarama that they made an effort. And that effort is welcome. But to me, what are the lessons we learn? What are the lessons we learn? And it is already now on social media what was said. You remember when the delegates landed in Kiev, they were treated with disrespect. The president of Ukraine told the delegation, each of you should introduce himself by name, his age, and how long he has been in power. And I believe the person targeted there was the Colonel Sasangweso of Congo, Republic of Congo. And as you know, our president was also supposed to be in that delegation.
COVID came in.
So I think we are very lucky as a nation. And I think the president could even have had intelligence about the shame that they had planned to put before him. Because that question of what is your age and how long have you been in power, I believe was intended even to hit our president. So we were treated, the African leaders were treated with disgust. Why? These are the reasons. One, you see, Mr. Right Honorable Prime Speaker, this is a very small world. Internet is now everywhere. You cannot take any country for granted. They know you before you go. Number one, you remember the the Russian Foreign Affairs Minister visited Africa. I see the Ukrainian Solidarity Committee chairman. You remember the day he visited Africa, he visited specifically countries that were deemed to be close to Russia. And the countries that Russia visited, the Russian foreign minister visited, and which were deemed to be pro-Russia, were Egypt, by General Assisi, where General Assisi is the president, Republic of Congo, General Colonel Sasangweso, General Museveni's Uganda, and Ethiopia, where there is Colonel Ahmed. So, you see that when a delegation is made comprising of 3 of Russia's 4 friends, there is already a problem. That's the number one reason why this team was treated with disgust.
Oh.
Number 2, you see, he said, Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, asked those African leaders, you are coming here, but there is a war in Sudan, in Somalia,
In Congo.
and in Congo. Why didn't you settle those ones before you came here?
That's the very question I was asking Comrade Rugarama.
And I want to tell you,
That do you have the credentials to go and...
I want to tell you, Right Honorable
when in your
Speaker,
own home, your house is burning.
I want to tell you, Right Honorable Speaker, that I agree with Zelensky, President Zelensky of Ukraine, on that hypocrisy of African leaders.
You're calling it hypocrisy.
Because if in your own country you want to prove that your army is indomitable, you don't discuss peace. You want to prove that UPDF is untouchable in the region. You see, the person who went there was Colonel Ndugu Rugunda. Ndugu Rugunda went there as a peace envoy. But Ndugu Rugunda was the one who headed the Joseph Kony peace talks. Did it bring peace?
No,
Nothing.
having failed in Kony doesn't mean that he can also fail in...
So, in Somalia, listen. In Somalia, UPDF is fighting Al-Shabaab as terrorists on the ticket of America. When in South Africa, they were fighting against apartheid, they were called terrorists. By who? By America. Now America has also told us that Al-Shabaab are terrorists, and we are fighting America's war in Somalia. We are not negotiating. So you go there on hypocritical grounds. ADF. You don't want to talk to ADF. They have killed people for 30 years. You say for UPDF we just crash because I'm Sabalwanyi. Doesn't Putin also want to call himself Sabalwanyi?
Actually, here just last night they have put out of action. I'm quoting the deputy speaker of UPDF, the language they use. Putting out of action means killing. They have put out of action by last night about 48 alleged ADF.
So those are no more 2 minutes of mine you have taken.
But
Now,
I'm giving information, Professor.
yes. So now, in this small world, people know you. They know you that in your own country you are Sabalwanyi. UPDF does not negotiate. Now you go and tell the Ukrainian army, no, for you, negotiate. Russian army, for you, negotiate.
Stop fighting.
No. People know you. They know your track record. And that's why
So
they
you're saying
treated
they
us.
should stop fighting as for you are fighting here?
Yes.
Is that the point you're making?
Yes. So the second ground, that's why I think they were mistreated. The second ground. By the way, even when they went to Putin, Putin also treated them in a similar manner. Said, you people, why have you come? Do you know the points? I have here, take this document, 18 points. Why you should not even bother to talk with. So either way, they were treated badly. The second ground, I really want to imagine why they were mistreated. This world, and Rugarama, you are well placed, and Ndukasha, you are well placed. My 2 minutes. You see, there are two people who fell sick when the peace talks were going on. The president, which I cannot doubt, I want to believe, he was sick.
You mean you wanted to doubt?
Whereas there are people who are doubting. But the other second person who also fell sick around the same time was Mbabazi. How is Mbabazi connected?
But that one has been sick for
The Brazzaville Foundation. But have you not seen him talking in London? The Brazzaville Foundation had another core, which is the Global Security Foundation of Mbabazi.
Mbabazi is a
Which
member.
was linked.
He's sharing it actually.
Exactly. He's sharing it, and it was linked in Senegal. And it's linked to Russia. So you can't think that people cannot know things.
But the
You are
man was
one who
sick.
is
The man was sick, Professor Alenyo.
Were you there, Right Honorable Speaker?
I was not there.
Yesterday
I
he was talking very strongly. And these
Yeah.
are the things I'm saying. You know, you can't take the world to the
So
joke
you want
all
to
the
believe
time.
that there is something why the president
Number
of Uganda
three,
and Mama fell sick at the same time when
at the
there
same
was,
time, and big,
when there was supposed to be
leave it at that. Number three.
Professor.
Number three. I just have to ignite your mind. Number three.
As you finish.
BRICS. You see, Mr. Speaker, we must be serious. What is BRICS? BRICS is the next power which is coming on the world. And B stands for Brazil, R for Russia, I for India, C for China, S for South Africa. BRICS.
So what's the problem?
So now,
I want to understand the argument.
The delegation that went to purport to talk peace was led by Cecil Ramaphosa, who is
member of BRICS.
A member of BRICS. It was not neutral.
Hey.
In the opinion of Zelensky. That was the third reason for the mistreatment they got. The fourth reason I'd already given. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, my advice to African leaders, be true. Be true and know that you are known. If you are known in Africa and you have a track record, you are not going to go to Europe and have another track record. I so pray that.
Thank you.
That is my submission.
Thank you so much, Professor.
Yeah. I've given you my
the presentation.
Exactly.
Is here. Thank you so much. Thank you. Now, let me invite Comrade Kashaya after this ad break. Kashaya, take to the podium. You are a researcher. You are a human. You are a Pan-Africanist. Do you really believe that African leaders are exporting peace between Russia and Ukraine? Do you really believe that they can achieve that dream? As always, okay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad that you have brought a very, very interesting topic. Mr. Speaker, sir, before I even give my position and presentation, I want all of you to join hands and clap for these African leaders. Clap for them. Mr. Speaker, Africa is at the top of the world. We have been making headlines in many negative perspectives. This is Africa's era. We are at the top.
Because you have gone there to
The whole
talk about
world,
peace.
the whole world is at knees. Africa is the only continent where there is hope. And that's why Europe, yes, that's why Europeans are running here. There is no marriage in Europe. There is no sanity in Europe. There is no peace in Europe. There is some relative peace in Africa.
Relative is the
That's
word.
why
Relative is
we
the
are
word.
becoming now the vanguard for the first time
Of peace.
in peace negotiation in Europe.
Give Africans a round of applause, gentlemen. Okay.
Mr. Speaker, sir, Africa's peace processing stature comes from the culture of African people. We believe in peace, in resolving a conflict, than waging and engaging wars like the way how it is in Europe. That's why we have high respect in conflict resolution, because we are peaceful people. The entire continent, we are very peaceful. Even you can read on our faces that we are so peaceful. You can read even here. People are peaceful, even in this room. So we are naturally peaceful. So with due respect, I want to thank the African leaders. This is a very big plus. Mr. Speaker, sir, we want first of all to see, for the first time, Mr. Speaker, the international community failed in many areas to resolve conflicts. Let me give you examples. It failed in Rwanda, where there was United Nations and the genocide took place.
1994 genocide.
1994 genocide. It is only Uganda that stopped the genocide. Clap for Ugandans.
And by then, who was the president of Uganda?
It is still the president of today.
Hey.
But we have to give respect and, give
Credit
thanks
where it's
where-
due.
Yes, that was a plus.
But
The international community.
I think it was easy, Mr. Kasha, because
I'm continuing.
Kagame was a student here.
Yes, but how many, for instance, the Ukraine and Russia, they are almost brothers and sisters.
They actually
They
not
even
almost,
speak
they
the
are.
same language. And by the way, if you can study, that was a former, even it is a former Soviet Union.
Soviet Union.
Yes, actually, nothing much.
Okay,
or
you are
less.
making your second point. Let me not disturb you.
There
Your
was
second point.
even failure by international community in Burundi. You remember the fight between the Ethnics, the Tutsis and the
And the
and the
Tutsi
Hutus.
and the Hutus.
those ones that were pro-Buyoya and the former president Nkurunziza. Who stopped this? Who resolved the conflict? Before there was a democratically elected president, it was Africans. Who stopped the war in South Sudan? When you had so many NGOs, these NGOs, nothing going on.
It's
Yes.
called non-government organization. If you're saying nothing going on.
167 NGOs in South Sudan. They never even resolved the white paper, stop the fighting in South Sudan. It was only UPDF that did that. Why can't you clap for
So
that?
we again give round of applause to Uganda.
Yes.
And who is the president
You
by
can
then?
clap even if you want or not, but it's a plus.
And who was the president then?
President Museveni. Thank you very much.
This man Ngai has been in
Mr.
power
Speaker,
for long.
sir. Yes, I'm still, because this is we know.
Go ahead, go.
I'm not saying this without research. And I can
No, I
see all
believe
of
in
you
your
are
research.
nodding the head because you know this. All of you, because these things happened 20 years back, 15 years back, 5 years back, 2 years back. So it's not news. Mr. Speaker, who stopped, for instance, the conflicts in Somalia? United States had failed. At least right now, there is some relative peace in Somalia. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, Africa is known. It's not for the first time to resolve conflicts peacefully. And therefore, it is a big plus that our African leaders are importing peace processes, the East and West. Mr. Speaker, what other interests do we have as Africans? Mr. Speaker, on the economic point of view, Russia is the biggest partner to African states in terms of military hardware, oil and gas. Mr. Speaker, as you may recall, Russia produces 10.94 million barrels per day, which makes it 11% of the world's oil.
That is true.
And since the Ukraine-Russia war started, the impact of that, because of the largest oil producers in the world, you can see the rate at which Africans now are buying fuel. And the impact of fuel also economically impacting Africans in terms of trade and even subsistence, even other essential goods. Because transporting goods and services, of course, involve some oil and something like that. Mr. Speaker, sir, there are many things that the Africa is having interest in this war. As you may know, where there is a war, anywhere where there is a war, is everywhere.
Their interests.
There must be some impact and interest. Now, the second last. What we should be discussing here is whether the people, because you see, in conflict resolution, both parties must be willing. And therefore, must also be willing even to respect the views for those who are mediating the processes. Now, my worry now, where we should even be discussing, is whether the president of Ukraine and president of Russia is respecting our leaders, the way how we should be even looking at it. These are serious things. Because up to now, they even don't know whether these people, because first of all they were saying, who is funding you? Now in mind, Ukraine is saying, did you first consult United States? Because to them they say, this is a superior country which is supposed to be having a hand in the peace process. But we have seen United States failing in all negotiation. You can challenge me. Tell me one single negotiation where United States has been involved and they have ever produced good results. Nothing. Nothing.
But these people are called peacekeepers.
No.
Mr. Kashaya.
These are peace brokers. And by the way, let me tell you, we have started a war over isolating United States.
You and who? I'm not part. You and who?
Me and Africans. Are you not an African?
I am, but
yes.
you have not.
Because for a long time, they have inflicted pain on us.
Kashaya, don't bandwagon Africa.
I'm a peacemaker.
But
yes.
I must first agree.
My nickname. I'm a peacemaker.
I must first agree that.
So we are identifying and isolating those ones that anti-peace. We are living in a global world. Who are you? Who are you, you United States? This is the time to show United States that there have been other sleeping lions. Now they are waking up. Africa now has woken up and is showing the world that can take the mantle in managing peace in the whole world. Good evening.
Thank you so much, Mr. James Kashaya. Let me hear from Mr. Eric Sakwa. Eric Sakwa, it's your time. Eric Sakwa is a former RDC. No, it is RCC, not RDC. RCC.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My name once again, Eric Sakwa is my name. I am the former RDC Ginger. And I'm also the executive director of the Conservation for Environment.
I know that you are an environmentalist.
On
and that could be one of the reasons you had a lot of skirmishes in Ginger.
Exactly.
But they also know you from, even before all this came in the political appointments. I know you from way back. You remember our group, me, you, Kashaya James, Stephen Yasimwe, David Mafabi, Comrade Richard Todwong. You recruited him in the Pan-African movement. Richard Todwong, comrade. There was a lady, I'm forgetting her name.
Yeah, there's Patrick Aroma, all of those people.
So when you're looking for the real, you know, Pan-Africans, that's why he looked for you, comrade.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Some of these people have known you when you became RCC Jeans, but for us, we have known you outside that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I am equally very, very excited to be here discussing a matter that concerns us, specifically in assessing the impact of African leaders in relation to peace mediation in the Ukraine-Russia war. Mr. Speaker, I want us to do justice to this topic because we seem to be romancing issues rather than bringing them in a real form.
They are fearful, I think.
First of all, Mr. Speaker, I want to appreciate the initiative of African leaders for the morale and the urge they had to go and negotiate for peace mission between Ukraine and Russia. That is a very big plus. In the same vein, we must also look at the incidences that culminated into the emergence of this war. Because if you are going for peace missioning, then you must know what culminated into the conflict at large. Mr. Speaker, we very much know that Uganda, unlike other African countries, are the greatest exporters of peace within African continent.
That one I agree.
Within the African continent, not outside the African continent. What does that signify? That if you have a mother who prepares food very well, and you've never moved out of your homestead, you may think she's the best cook. But brokering peace within African states may not necessarily mean that we are the best. First of all, ask yourself, what is the military net worth of all of those countries that went to broker peace in Ukraine, Russia?
Hey.
What is our military net worth?
The African countries.
Of course, no European country went to
European
broker.
countries.
It is Africans.
But also China recently was negotiating.
No,
peace.
we are talking of these African leaders, of those
African
who
leaders.
left here.
Mm.
So, was it peace missioning or peace jokes?
Peace jokes.
Who initiated this peace missioning? Because I believe that there must be a process. If you are going to broker peace in Ukraine, we have what we call African Union. You must sit, because even the selection of those who went to broker peace, who selected them? Because we just had a club of few rulers just sat and agreed that you, for Egypt, El Fatah, you come. Yoweri Museveni in Uganda, come. Ramaphosa in South Africa, come.
You are the head of delegation.
They even said you are the head of delegation. I don't know under which criteria.
Congo Brazzaville, you come.
You see?
Mm.
Now, you
Zambia, you come.
There are other countries that were left.
Senegal, you come.
There were other countries that were left who could even be better.
We have 54 African countries.
Exactly.
Why the 7? What was the criteria?
What about Ghana? Because Ghana is the founder of democracy in Africa. That would be actually one of them on the list. But why is it that he was not there? So that's why sometimes we look at this as, was it peace missioning or peace jokes?
They could actually they took DRC, but they left out Kenya. When you look at the democracy in Kenya vis-a-vis, I don't understand the criteria.
Exactly. We have also to look at, when did this war start?
2 years ago, I think.
In February 2022. Now, how do you wait for gallons of blood, rivers of blood to flow? Then you come and the last hour that you see, I'm going to. If neighbors are fighting, intervene before there is a grievance.
But is it better to be late than never?
After death have been recognized, you cherish death. Killings that happened in fact, at one time I was watching my TV, I realized because of the anger I had when they were bombing Kyiv.
You kicked
I
the TV?
kicked the TV. I was really very annoyed. I was trying to, but I realized I have kicked even. So
as you end up.
We have that. Now, we have recently, we saw when Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, when he hosted these people, you saw the reactions, even the questions he put before them.
They first had to convince him that they actually qualify.
He doesn't believe that they really qualify. One is that their diplomatic dilemma between Pretoria and Moscow. Because if you are going to broker for peace, why do you go with a battalion of weaponry? And you know, Mr. Kasaya was mentioning about trying to romance, African leaders. They are really so, but that the issues were not the same. The political chemistry of the countries of Africa and those of Europe is totally different. You cannot compare the political chemistry in Uganda, in Africa, and you say, no, you know, Africa has graduated, is now brokering peace. For us, our issues are just some small issues. These are Ukraine and Russia, these are superpowers.
Let me have Mr. For the first time I'm seeing him, I need to give him a platform. Mr. Dennis W. Asima, who is a writer. He's an aspiring writer. Let me hear from him.
Mr. Speaker, this morning, I wanted to meet a Pan-Africanist, Major Paula Awich, at NRM Secretariat. And so I wanted to take a border ride because I was running late. The border man told me 8,000 shillings.
From where to where?
From Rubaga to here. To, NRM Secretariat is just right here. So I immediately raised my hands. I said, oh, wait, hold on. Please, I am not one of them. In fact, you can see my shirt. My shirt is of another man who is not of NRM Secretariat people.
Hey.
And he just started laughing. And he laughed. And he said, just tula, just sit and I take you at 5,000 shillings. Mr. Speaker, you can leverage only on looks. You can leverage and only on looks you can get things done. I just dressed the way I was, and that was enough to get me a discount. And I'm going to tie it into this. This shirt, it speaks to someone that I'm not going to campaign for. Okay. So, Mr. Speaker, in 1989, South Africa was the only country that had nuclear weapons and surrendered them.
Eh?
And surrendered them.
1989?
Yes. In 2003, Libya gave up her nuclear weapons program. We know what happened to Libya after. So now, what is it about nuclear weapons? Nuclear weapons have many things, but I just picked three things. Firstly, nations that have them are not bound by agreements.
Yeah.
Once you have the nuclear weapons, now you're not bound by all these agreements with other global bodies and UN because you have something that everyone fears. Secondly, when you have
But I've heard America trying to blame some Western countries of manufacturing nuclear weapons basing on the international laws, and they bench on those ones. So I don't understand when you say you're not bound by those terms.
You see, America is not bound by ICC rules because they are their own
Because they are
power.
not signatory.
They are not signatory, and they don't have to be. And North Korea does not have to be either because they have nuclear weapons. So the thing is that you can choose to be part of the agreements, but you can also choose to be out. You are not bound by them. The point is that if you have the military might of nuclear weapons, then you are not bound by agreements. But I want to tie it to this very issue. Now, technologies, the second thing is this. Technologies, you can actually exchange your ambitions for nuclear, and then you get technologies that can save your people. Iran is doing that right now. North Korea is trying to do the same thing right now. North Korea hosted Donald Trump, and Donald Trump was selling all the advancement that America can give to North Korea. So, there is a strategic value in having this kind of weaponry. Thirdly, nuclear weapons possess an existential threat to everyone in the world, including the West.
That's true. But
Now, yes.
I am looking at how you are connecting the weaponry debate to this one now.
And addressing.
I am looking for the linkage.
I'm getting to it now, sir.
I'm not getting there.
Okay, so this is the thing. When South Africa packed just a few weapons to...
You said 1989.
No, this time now. South Africa
This time round.
sending weapons to Russia. Then South Africa was a legitimate player on the world scene, much as the weapons were not nuclear that they were sending to Russia. The thing is, as long as we know that the rule the Europeans gave Africa was EBA, everything but arms, the thing they fear the most is if Africa will get involved at a weapons level, whether nuclear or anything. Therefore, even if you don't have nuclear, but you dress like someone who has ever had nuclear, and you dress like that, then you can have leverage. Now, lastly,
If you're not a cat, but you look like a
Yes.
cat, they
Now,
treat you like a cat.
Yes. What can Africa do? What can Africa do to actually play on the world scene without having the nuclear weapons? We can have ideology. One of the things the West fears the most is population. What Africa can do is to start championing population growth. You see, the point is, I'm just picking on one issue. You might not agree with it. You pick your own other that threatens the West. If you shall say we shall multiply the over 1 billion Africans and we shall become 3 billion in 10 years, the West will say they are coming for us. So what I'm trying to say is this. What Africa needs to do is to have an ideology. We need an ideology that unifies us. That is the biggest threat. When South Africa entered the arms supply to Russia, they entered an ideological ground. And that is the only thing we need to fight. That's the only mobilization we need as Africa. So let me answer the question. Finally. In my view, how can I assess our performance as Africans on the world stage? I think that we did well just for showing up. We announced ourselves. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Just announcing ourselves there.
It's enough because now they know that you want to be members on the table.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Mr. Hafizu. Hafizu is a student of international relations. So I brought him for a purpose and he's a youth leader.
The point is diplomacy has no borders, has no color, has no tribe. When you talk about diplomacy, there is no any person who will say that I'm the one to carry out diplomatic missions. This is a call whereby in Buganda we have a saying, no mutakukubire ngoma no zina. That means even a young child can drum for you and you dance to the tunes. So the issue is someone can't say that Africa is so inferior to mediate peace in Ukraine. Africa is superior enough to do that because the power of diplomacy are the points that are on your head. What are you thinking? What is your goal? What are you aiming to? And more so, are you organized enough? I thank my brother, who spoke, Honorable Sakwa, from the former RDC. He spoke about the arrangement. Were we really arranged enough to carry out this mission?
Were we prepared enough?
Were we prepared enough? My answer to that is no, because I had it 2 months. After 2 months, then I think it was 1 month after they went for the mediation. But this is something.
But a month is enough, really, because what do you need?
You can say a month.
You're not going to fight. You're simply going to speak, to talk.
Honorable Speaker, the issue of diplomacy is not a walk in the bush. First, you have to realize where the thing started from.
Okay.
You have to vision where they are going and where they are. And you have to have leverage that you're going to use to bring both these parties onto the table. What did the African leaders have that they were going to present to these two parties so that they can agree? First of the things, you won't bring your problems in people who are fighting together. You find two people fighting, you say, that's not the issue. But you have to understand these two parties and then discuss or mediate peace between these two parties, thinking of what both of them want.
Free your mind now. Be part of People's Pan-African Parliament, the Pan-African Pyramid Debate with your speaker, Andrew Irumba Katusabe.
Thank you. Mr. Ariatunga Regan, thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
Ariatunga,
Mr. Speaker.
Regan?
Most of African leaders, they know that when that war keeps on moving, the effects of the war, they will also come to their countries, which we have already observed in Uganda as a country. When I use Uganda as one of the countries that sent a delegate to meet Putin. Because all of us, I think last year, we managed to see the way how prices of fuel, they were trying to go high, and which affected us.
They didn't just try, they went high.
They went high.
Hey, they didn't try.
We have those ones who are financially stable. They didn't feel it. For them, they might say that they were trying to go high. But for us, the 1 inches, we can really know that the prices, they really hiked.
Went high.
Yeah, exactly. Then another point, we clearly know that among the methods that we know for conflict resolution,
where we have mediation, we have arbitration, we have conciliation. Those, when you try to apply one of those methods, you have to engage two parties. But at the moment, we have seen the delegation from Africa meeting Russia when we know that the war is between Russia and Ukraine is leaning on America. So they should go ahead and they meet America and Ukraine to get their say.
We are on our last segment of the Pan-African Pyramid show here at Fairway Hotel, and we're discussing the impact of the African leaders' peace mediation process in Ukraine and Russian conflict. Let me have, finally, Chairman Ukraine Solidarity Group Committee in Uganda, Mr. Makanga.
First of all, I want to make a point and a piece of advice to African leaders who would wish to intervene or make an impact in the Russo-Ukrainian war, that their task and long-awaited call is their vote on the United Nations forums. There is a body which was established after the events of World War I and World War II to make sure that what happened before does not happen in the future. And the African stance, all leaders all over the world are mandatory and supposed to make sure that those underpinnings which we have put forward to see that that one does not happen are followed and respected, which is the United Nations Charter and the international laws, which many African leaders absent themselves at the vote. Some voted neutral, which now they are feeling the pitch of the consequences of their stance at the UN Charter, at the UN vote. Mr. Speaker, sir, all what we had His Excellency Ramaphosa saying here, that they went to listen to both President Zelensky and President Putin, that the war should end by negotiation. We, the Ukraine Solidarity Committee in Uganda and Sub-Saharan Africa, the war broke up on 24th of February. Just a few days after the breakup, we started Ukraine Solidarity Committee in Uganda on the 16th of March. You see, a person who has seen the future, who has foreseen the consequences, takes a stand and a step rather than waiting for years. People die, children are bombed, hospitals, hotels are burned down, and then you come in a proxy, hypocrisy-wise, to say that you stand and you mediate peace. What a shame. Mr. Speaker, sir, we agree that the war in Ukraine, the Russo-Ukrainian war, affects Africa. We have been saying it in the press releases we have made and the press conferences on various platforms. We have stated it and we continue to say it. Mr. Speaker, whether members present here agree with me or not, the Russo-Ukrainian war is a world war. Is a world war. Whether you agree with me or not. And whatever after events of this war.
Are you saying that we are now in a world war?
Yes.
Are you serious?
Yes.
What are the signs of world war?
What are signs of world war?
First, the entire world should be in war. Are we?
First,
is the entire world in war?
Let me give you the science.
Okay.
As you have asked.
Okay. For me, no mathematics. Now give me science.
First, the effects of the war in Eastern Europe, the way it has come to turn the geopolitics, commerce, and trade of the entire world. It takes a child understanding to wait to be told or told that this war is a world war.
It's World War.
Yes.
So now we are in World War III because we had World War I.
Yes.
Second World War. So this is World War III.
Where we haven't just reached is that level where we have countries have divided themselves along east and west and start sending troops to fight on the front line.
So it's us who have not yet understood that actually we are in World War
Yes.
III.
But maybe we are waiting to be told that you are in the war. But
World War III.
each of us is feeling the pitch of the war in his or her own way.
On this issue, what I can say is we want peace in the world to prevail. As Africans, we are people who want peace. We are peaceful people. So we pray for peace. And Africa should be focusing on the domestic problems that we have. We have a lot of challenges. We have conflicts in Africa. We have poverty in Africa. We have infrastructure that needs to be developed in Africa. So I think that should be where we should be putting our focus than focusing on international conflicts.
Okay.
That's my submission. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Shamim Kimgisha. Professor Lenny, you can give a closing remark in about 2 minutes.
From now, let the government of Uganda visit every university, have dialogue with the international relations students. This one was a minister for national affairs. Look at the emotions he has about the war. We have something to say. Now, this brings me to the point, about Mbabazi. Let me tell you, we have been understanding things which you don't know. And I'm glad you said that Mbabazi was on duty as executive director of Security Global. This is a Russian-founded organization which Putin is using in Africa. And it is that organization which brought in Senegal on board. That's where the headquarters is. But the Mbabazis, they want to pretend that they are the ones who know things that others don't know. That is why he had to pretend that he's sick in London. If you want people to be open. So my question is, let the government, the youth have a lot to say about this war. It's affecting all of us. And as Shamim has said, you know everything is increasing. Food, oil. How many students used to go to study in Ukraine? They went, their money was not even refunded. Those who got stuck there up to now, some have never come home. So these are the issues. Now, did Rugunda go to talk about food? Did he talk about the students stranded there whose school fees have never been paid, tuition fees? I like a point raised by someone there that if you're a mediator, you don't go to say, we are suffering, we need the wheat to start coming, the oil, cooking oil. You talk like somebody who is interested in the war fundamentally. Now, this man here is connected to the system, Mr. from RDC. You invite these people, viewers, from the NRM Secretariat. There is brain power here. All these youth want something to say. Maybe, can Rugunda be invited? He can come and address here. Tells us what he wants to do. And then these ministers tell him, but you first go to NATO. Also take some youth too. Actually, I think the president of Ukraine Solidarity, you remember one time you issued a statement about the youth who were studying. There are 3 Africans who died. 3 Ugandan students who died. Yet their parents had paid full school fees. I don't know whether that one was raised. You go and raise the issue of Kaunga and Ngano. Those things. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you.
It's been a nice topic.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, Professor Alenyo Zezuliam. Thank you so much.